Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar on how to get started with noCRM.io. My name is Shireen Zaire, and I will be running today's webinar. Today, we'll cover a little bit about noCRM, why companies choose us. Then we'll do a demo of our services, which includes how to set up your account, how to create leads, how to manage leads and prospects, and how to analyze performance. And then we'll finish off with a Q&A session that you can answer at the end of the webinar. noCRM is a product of You Don't Need a CRM. We are a lead management software that is focused on the sales process and the creation of a prospect all the way to becoming a client. We launched in November 2013 and are available in 7 different languages. We have over 10,000 sales reps using us in 80 countries. The reason that companies choose us is because we are focused on salespeople, and we created this platform with that in mind and not the marketing team in mind. So this means that you do have to fill in less information, so more usability. We do give managers access to reports and collaboration features, which I will go over those features in the demo. And in our system, there is always a next action to do associated with the lead. This has proven to increase closing rates by over 20%. So what I mean by there's always a next action is that your lead always goes in a standby or to-do loop until eventually they're closed. A little bit more about what we have to offer. We have our integrations and our API. So we have a lot of third-party integrations available, as well as an open API for any integrations that you want to develop internally. We also have a mobile app available on iOS and Android. Before I go over the demo, I do want to mention that we have 2 editions. We have the starter edition at $14 per user per month, and the expert at $22 per user per month. I will go over the differences in those features through the demo. I'm going to switch over to my demo. One second. Okay, so here you should be able to see my dashboard. This is the dashboard of my demo platform. And this is where I do recommend that managers and sales reps start their day. The reason being is because I like the leads to do and leads on standby. That gives you a good idea on what you need to do for that day and that week. Also, on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have our activity feed. This is good if you have large sales teams or if you're a manager that keeps tabs on your sales reps and what they're doing. As you can see, if I hover over that activity, I get more details on the lead and what happened exactly. Right here, you'll see a quarterly snapshot analysis of your leads won and revenue. This is not to replace reporting. I will go over that at the end of the webinar, but this is to give you a good idea on how you're standing at the moment. Also right here, we have our sales pipeline, which includes the leads in each step of the pipeline, the revenue, as well as the total at the bottom. So here on the top left corner, you can see that we are separated into 3 different sections: client folders, leads, and clients. I will deep dive into each of those sections, but before that, I do want to define what a lead is in our system. A lot of other softwares have different terminology like client, opportunity, deal. Here we call it a lead. So in order to do this, I'm going to create a lead together. So I just clicked on new lead. This is what we call the manual way of creating a lead, one of the many few ways that you can create a lead in our system. This opens up a lead card, and everything that you can see here is customizable except for the lead name, as well as most of the information is not mandatory except for, again, the lead name. So the lead name, you can choose it to be whatever you want it to be. It can be the company name, it could be the name of the actual contact. In my case, I'm going to use the lead company. So let's call it Pixar Corp. And then here I have what we call the default field section. Default field is again customizable to have whatever information you want to be included within your lead. So here it's very basic information, but you can add a lot more. So full name, for example, I'm gonna go Jane Doe. Then I'm gonna put a random phone number. And then here you go. So this is the phone number 123456789 that I use quite often when I'm doing my webinars. The reason I keep using it is to show you that we do have a duplicate flagging option within those leads. So you can flag your leads to be duplicate based on different default fields in the Expert Edition. In the Starter Edition, it only flags the title of the lead. So in this case, it's telling me that I have 5 possible duplicates with the same phone number. I can open those. It does not stop me. It's just letting me know. In my case, I will continue. Here, I'm going to go Pixar. Oh, I can't spell. Pixar at pixar.com. I'm going to leave the rest blank. Again, you can edit whatever you want at the end of that. Sorry about that. Okay, and then I have the incoming steps right here. So this is the step of my pipeline that my lead is currently in. This is again completely customizable. So the steps of my pipeline are customizable. And you can have multiple pipelines if you are in the Expert Edition. I am in the Expert Edition, so you can see mostly all the multiple pipelines that I have. But in any edition, regardless of the edition, you can have your pipeline customized to your sales process. In this case, I'm going to keep it incoming for the purpose of this exercise. Next, I have client folders. I will go over that later on in the demo. Here I have the amount. So this is obviously the amount that I think this lead will generate once it does become a client. I can fill it in now or fill it in later when I have a better idea. Next one is the probability. So not a lot of people use this, but if you do, the probability can be used in 2 ways. Probability can be used by you manually putting in the probability. So this is the probability that my lead will generate into a client, or you can allow our algorithm to figure out a probability to be attached to your lead based on historical data. So historical data is how quickly it moves from one step of the pipeline all the way to the end, which is client. Here we have units and commission. This wording right here can be edited. So units and commission can be changed into different boxes, but in any case, it does still need to be a number value and a percentage value. So for example, the information I hear, so units and commission, I can say 2 units of the product that I'm selling at $2,000 with a commission of 10%. So that will be calculated taking everything into consideration. Next, we have the estimated closing date. This is something that if you do like to use this is useful for forecasting report that we have, as well as a forecasting pipeline. If you don't use that, leaving it blank will not change anything. Same with probability, by the way. Last, we have an attachment. Attachment, pretty straightforward, PDF, image, file, whatever information you believe is important to have attached to this lead. Here I'm going to click on Create Lead, and here I have my lead card. So all the information that I put in, my lead default information, revenue, units, commission. I own this lead, and any attachment would have been here. I did forget this step right here. So this step is called categories and tags. Categories and tags is important for reporting and filtering purposes. So my categories are here, and my tags go within my category. So source, for example, these are the options that I have for source. Sorry, in this case, I will be choosing webinar, so that when I do pull up a report on how many leads do I have that come from the webinar source, I can just choose that tag from the drop-down menu. And you can see it here as well. So now I've added this lead into my pipeline. I want to start managing that lead. I want to start treating it. So my first step in my sales process, for example, would be calling them. If you do call them, you have several options to calling your clients. First one is hovering over the call button. As you can see, pulls out a QR code. This QR code can be used by pulling out your smartphone, taking out the camera, and scanning that QR code so that it auto-generates the phone number and you can make a phone call. It does save time in typing and avoids mistakes in the phone number. The other option that you have is you would click to call and it would either open Skype or FaceTime depending on the settings that you want to have. Same thing, auto-generates the phone number and you can call based on that. The last option is to use our third-party VoIP cloud calling systems. So we have AirCall and RingCentral. They're both available to be integrated directly with your noCRM.io account. So that when you click here, for example, this is AirCall, it would open a widget. I would have that call using their cloud calling system. It would keep a recording of that phone call and put it in the comment section right here with a timestamp and a length. So, but let's say that I just picked up my phone, old school, and I typed in my phone number and I want to log in that activity. So I choose on the drop-down menu. Whatever you see here in the drop-down menu as activities is customizable, only on the Expert Edition. The Starter Edition doesn't get any activities out of from the drop-down. They can just type it in like this. But if I do have the Expert Edition, I would just drop down like this and say I called. And the reason why sometimes the activities is a good option to have is because, first of all, again, it saves time. It's very simplified and also organized, so you know exactly what activity and outcome they had. So here, answered, unanswered voicemail, as well as when you have reporting on the activities, they use this as the way to report. So here I called. She said she wanted more info. So I saved that. I'm aware of that activity. I'm aware of what I spoke about with this lead. And now I'm going to do my next step. So if she wants more info, what I would do is send her an email. My option that I have is to send an email using the email button right here. By clicking on the email button right here, it will open my Google because that is my preferred email platform. Your preferred email platform can be completely different. It can be Yahoo, it can be Outlook, it could be, I can't think of anything else, but it can be whatever you want as a email platform, and it will open that. And as you can see, the send to email is auto-generated, as well as this BCC email address right here. This BCC email address right here not only allows us to grab that email that you sent, since we don't have access to your emails, it allows us to grab that email information as well as associated to your account, because this email BCC that you see right here is unique to your account. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. Test, and send that over, and it will be found here. And the way that it also works is that it's associated to the lead based on the email that is in that lead. So the lead is right here, but I do want to show you our search capabilities. You can search right here all your leads based on, I really can't spell that word, based on the lead name, the email, or the phone number associated to that lead. Here is Pixar Corporation, and here is the email that I just sent. I have the subject, the body, the time. Also, if I had an attachment, you could also find it here. Now that I've called her and sent her an email, not only can I change the step of my pipeline right here, but I can also choose my next status. So right now it's on to do, but there's also standby. To do and standby are what we call active statuses. That means the leads are open and still being managed. So in this case, I'm going to go on standby, and I'm going to say next Monday, I want to give her a call to see if she had time to read my email. So by doing that, by putting a time and date and time, this will be able to sync with my calendar. Again, my preferred calendar. Whatever calendar you have, it can sync with that, meaning that when you do save that activity to do on standby for next Monday, it will create a calendar in your event, it will create an event in your calendar, sorry, and remind you that you do need to call Pixar Corporation at 9:30 on Monday. Also provide a little bit of information of that lead so you are aware of that, that lead and what you need to do next. So far I've showed you how to create a manual lead. I've showed you how to basic management of a lead, but I've also mentioned a lot of things that are customizable. And before I move forward, I do want to show you where you can do that. you will go to the settings sections right here and go on admin panel. And here, the first part is called customize your sales process. This is where you'll be able to customize everything that I mentioned earlier. So the first one being the default field. So that is the information that is found within the lead. I can add more default fields, match it to field type. This is very important to make sure that you do match the correct information, and then decide if this is something that you want to detect as duplicate. Again, this is only available in the Expert Edition. The Starter Edition is only the email address. Next, we have your sales funnel. Sales funnel is, again, pretty straightforward. You have your type of pipeline that you want with the steps inside of it, and create more if you're on the Expert Edition. Then we have the categories and tags. So categories and tags is where you can obviously add every tag that you want within that category. There is not any limit. And you can also make some of them mandatory if you really want your sales rep to answer this category before they can create that lead. Next is the activities and outcomes. So this is where you can create your activities. You can have icons, color coding. And then lastly, the post-sales process. I did not mention this yet, but since we're here, I do want to show you where you can edit those and mention how you can use it later. So this is where you would go to edit your post-sales process. One more thing that I did show you is how to, or talk about how to sync your calendar. So this is where you can learn how to sync your calendar depending on the type of calendar that you have, as well as learn more about your email integration. The email integration, this has a little bit more information, as well as finding your unique BCC email address that is associated to your account. So other ways that, one more thing, more integrations available here. I did mention AirCall and Ring Central, but we do have a lot more integrations available that I do invite you to take a look at. Okay, I did mention how to create a lead manually. I did say that there were multiple ways to create a lead. So let's go through those options. So one of the ways that is new that just came out is all the bulk imports that we have available. Import leads is something that we just started to come out with, which means you can import your leads directly in bulk through an Excel format if you have many leads to import. Then we also have the capability of importing clients, which means if you want to keep that data in your system of clients to make sure that you want to resell them or have that information, you can also do that as well. Another way that you can create leads is through email. So let's say you get an email from a potential client that's asking you questions. You want to save time and not have to go back to your noCRM and import that information. You can forward your email to this email address right here. Be careful, this email does look very similar to the BCC email address, but it actually says add, ADD. They react completely differently based on the email. So if you have an email that you sent to add, but it's actually supposed to be a BCC, it will go into your if you're unassigned leads. If you send an email to BCC that was supposed to go to add, that means our system will not find a matching lead or matching email address to a lead, so it will go in pending emails. Next, we have business cards. So on our mobile apps, you can scan your business card. It will scan all the information in the business card, put it in the right default field, take a screenshot of that business card and keep it on the lead card, and then create a lead for you to manage. We also have the capability of adding leads through contact forms. So these are forms that you have on your website. So I'm not going to go through all the details, but if you have a contact form on your website, this is where you would have them directly directly into your noCRM.io account. And last way to add leads is through cold prospects. Cold prospects is a set that we created before leads in order to make sure that you don't overcrowd your pipeline. So this is usually used when you have large amounts of data, contacts. So you got them from an email database, you bought them online, you went to a conference, whatever the reason is that you have a large amount of contacts that you're not sure are even interested in your product or service. So for the easiness of managing those contacts, we created a step before called cold prospects to make sure you filter through them and qualify them before you put them in your pipeline, assign them to sales reps. So just to give you an example of what I uploaded, this is an Excel format. So you can upload in CSV Excel format, and it looks like this. All the columns are information that I had input into the system. And if I want to start qualifying them, I will click on this little bubble button right here. This is only available in the Expert Edition. In the Starter Edition, this column right here is gone, and you only have the plus sign. So here, I'm going to click on the bubble button. I have all the information right here of my lead, and I can start qualifying it. So it looks very similar to the information that I showed you before in terms of calling, emailing, and logging in those activities. But the way that it works, so let's say I did call this lead. She said, don't call me again. She was not interested in this product. So now we log in that activity. We know that I've already contacted them, what interaction happened, and I can cancel this prospect. Meaning that next time I come in and spend my day qualifying prospects, I already know that this was crossed out and I can skip over and go to the next one. I can go through it very easily like this. And for example, here, answered, send more info. Sorry, I'm clearing my throat. And then here, I create that lead. Again, it is flagged as a duplicate one more time. I can create that lead anyway. And then here I have the mandatory category that I mentioned from the tags and categories that I edited earlier. And I have to answer this. And there you go. We have the lead card. Now it's in one of my pipelines. I can change if I want to be in a different pipeline, but it's ready to start managing as a lead. Okay. So now that I've talked about prospects and mentioned some settings and mentioned how to create all the leads, I'm going to show you what it looks like to deal with your leads in your pipeline. So you would go to leads, all my leads. And here you see all my leads in my pipeline, which looks like a lot of leads to look at. So what I would do is use our filtering option right here. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to look at all the leads that are alive. So or to do or on standby. And this is what I have. So even further, let's say I want to filter by tag. So this is where you can start using tags. Let's say today I only want to look at leads that came in through LinkedIn. So this is what I would filter through, and this is my pipeline with the leads in there. I can drag and drop. I can click into the standby and move it a bit later if I don't want to deal with this now. I can click into the lead and get all that information and manage like we did earlier. I can also see my leads in what we call the extended mode version. This is less visual, but it does allow you to have more information within the same one page without having to click into each lead. And lastly, we have the compact mode. Compact mode looks very similar to an Excel sheet because what you can do with it is bulk edits. So if I, for example, wanted to assign this off to someone else, or I'm going on vacation and I want to move this I'm going, let's say, on a 15-day vacation, and I want to move this all into the next 15 days, I can do that in bulk without having to do it manually. There's also obviously a lot of other things you can do. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I invite you to explore. You can also sort, much like Excel, for example, if you want to see the biggest revenue amount that's coming into your pipeline, you could do this, or the one with the highest probability, so on and so forth. You can do it like that. So now let's take this lead, for example, and let's assume that we've had a lot of back and forth interaction and that it's ready to be closed. So in this case, we have 3 closing statuses. 1, which is pretty straightforward, and then lost and canceled. The difference between lost and canceled is that Loss is used when you've lost your lead to a competitor. Canceled is used when you've lost a lead because something that was out of your hands, such as budget fell through, they didn't know what they were getting into. Whatever the reason is, it was not because of you. You, again, don't have to use that. It's just an option. In this case, I'm going to say that I've won. I'm going to generate a revenue associated to that lead and create. Now I'm prompted to answer whether or not I want to create a follow-up. I mentioned that option earlier in the settings, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means. Follow-up is what I like to call is task, as a very minimal task management that happens after the sales process. So for example, one of my templates is called conference, and it includes invoicing. So this is something that you do once you've signed a contract, you start invoicing your clients. You can have them dated or dated based on when you close the lead, or you can manually date it. You can add and remove tasks. For example, I don't want to survey these people. I could add another task and then create a follow-up. Here is my follow-up, my post-sales process, all the steps I have to do. I can assign this to someone else. For example, if I don't do invoicing in my company, I can assign it to the person who does. Then I can leave a comment and an attachment. So maybe on the contract that we agreed on, and I can also comment and say to Rana, my other colleague, can you help Greg with this? And by the way, this comment section, this comment feature right here is available in any section where you can put a comment or an activity. And the person will get a notification right here. So she assigned me a post-sale task, and then also if people tag me, I will get notifications. And then I can mark them as to do so that Greg knows he has to do this in 4 days and 10 days. And when he comes back here, he will check off and have the progress of that post-sales task. Now, let's say that this company that I'm dealing with does sell conferences, and they're going to come back next year and have another conference. I want to make sure that I'm the person they go to for that conference. I don't want to mess with this lead right here that does have a revenue and it should have a lot of information back and forth. So what I'm going to do is go to action, duplicate this lead, and then it's going to ask me if I want to create a client folder. Remember, we saw this earlier again. In this case, I want to create a new client folder. So here it's going to be called Ashia. I can do Ashia Corp if I want, and add more information about the company. Once I create that client folder, the lead duplicates. It automatically puts a number 2, but in this case, I could put 2021 because their conference is next year. All that information does roll over with the categories, and I can create that lead. Oops, I forgot to answer a mandatory tag. And then I can create that lead. Now that lead is coming in as new. They won't have the conference until next year. So I'm going to go to 2021. I'm going to go to April. I'm going to say April 1st. I'm going to give them a call and see if they're interested. So now I know that in 11 months, I'll get a reminder so that this lead doesn't fall through the cracks. The client folder association is right here. And when I click on it, I do have the old lead and the new lead, as well as the whole information on my client folder. So now I'm going to move on to statistics before finishing off this webinar. We have a lot of reports available for you to use. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to show you how they work. So like most reports, you can decide what date range you want to see their data from. And then you can filter. You can filter based on team, user, pipeline, and those tags again that I was mentioning. Like so. And then you have the graph and the chart to show you how your revenue and lead one is going. You also have another one that's team activity that I think is interesting. It shows you how many activities your employees have done over time range. And then we have the pipeline performance. This shows you how many leads are in each step of the pipeline and how many fall through. The forecasting report that I did mention earlier. The lead performance, so these are to see how many leads are have been in your pipeline in your creation date. So let's say you are a company that usually has a turnaround of 4 months. And if we're in April, like let's say in December, all these 4350 leads, it's alarming. So you can go in there, it opens those leads, you could delete them, reassign them, or see what's going on with them. So this is not all the reports, but you can go through all the reports. They're pretty straightforward. But if you don't understand anything that's going on, we have one of the best help centers that I find very easy to use. You can type in lead performance, for example, and it would come up with the report and give you more information on how to use it. We also have video tutorials available, and you can contact us live. I will be answering questions throughout the afternoon if you do have any questions moving forward. Before I open the Q&A, I do want to talk about our Tell a Friend program. We have a Tell a Friend program where you can share your personalized link to your friend, where you get a $25 credit for your next billing, or you can write a review on any of these platforms, and again, a $25 credit to go to your next billing. That's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining on today's webinar. If you do have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A section of Zoom. If you are writing and taking a while, please raise your hand so I know to not stop the webinar. If no one has a question, again, thank you for joining today's webinar and have a good rest of your day.